So I know Harry will not be joining us. It is 6:30 now, so once Christine's situated, I guess we can get started. Does anybody know if Rodney will be here?
I just talked to him. I think he has another engagement. For some reason, he's not getting the emails from you.
Huh.
He said the last email he got from you was July something or other.
Okay. I don't know what happened. So,
but I chatted with him, and I mean, I don't have a report on the Canalfront Park, but I can talk about the other things.
okay. And has anyone heard from Lou?
No.
I thought he was going to be here. Just check. Okay, I do not see him. I'll keep an eye out in the attendees for him. But, all right, Janet, if you want to get started.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. I will start the meeting, call the meeting to order. It is 6:31. I do not have any announcements this evening. I do just want to say that for those of you who I have met already, I appreciated our time together and look forward to working with everyone. And for those that I have not met, I will be scheduling a time when we can get together and visit your parks and just talk about what's going on. So thank you for your time for those of you I have met. Item B on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. And that was from the July meeting. We do not have those prepared yet, so I am deferring that item to the October commission meeting. Okay, any questions on that? Okay. So we will move to the Commissioner's report, the update on the monthly activity project and volunteer hours. Christine and Candace, if you could give us your report, however you would like to do that in succession.
I'll hand it off to Christine first.
Okay. Christine, I think you're muted. Yep, thank you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'm going to start with the Stango Park and portion of our report. I would just like to mention that we had very minimal storm damage from Hurricane Isaias with some large branches down and some debris. I have to thank the maintenance department who took care of the branch and debris removal the following day. So I really appreciate how quickly they responded. Also, Bartlett Tree Company was contracted by the city to thin out some of the large branches in the park with special attention given to the large maples and the sycamore tree. They also performed some general pruning and hazard pruning. Just as a note, the upkeep and maintenance has really helped the trees from severe storm damage, such as we get with these hurricanes and storms, snowstorms and ice storms. So it's been very helpful. I think Marty helped to organize that along with Allison with Bartlett Tree. And also I would like to mention the Stango Park concert series this summer has come to a successful completion, and a special thanks to Allison for juggling the schedule and to fill in for some cancellations, and also for the placement of signage, marking social distancing guidelines. Everything went really well. The concerts were indeed well attended, and we received a lot of positive feedback from our surveys. Generally, the concerts were very much appreciated in a time when a majority of events were canceled altogether. So thanks to the city, also to WSFS and the Delaware Division of Arts as our sponsors. Switching over to the library portion of the report, Arbor Care Tree Company performed their quarterly treatments, which included late summer foliar application to the roses and limelight hydrangeas, and also applied recovery fertilizer and treated some of the areas with gypsum to prevent compaction. It again has also been noted that there are a few shrubs in the children's courtyard area that are in decline and may need to be replaced when our budget allows. And that takes care of my portion of the report, and I'll turn it over to Candace if she has anything.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Christine. So I have the easy part. I have the welcoming for Janet, and thank you for meeting with us. And we had a lovely walk around both parks where we tried to give you the benefit of understanding how we think about looking after our parks and the issues that we foresee. And we showed her a couple of trees that are in need of some attention, possible replacement, and some shrubs that need to be pulled out because they've gone by the board. So welcome, Janet, and we look forward to working with you.
Well, thank you very much. I look forward to the relationship as well. Thank
So
you.
that concludes our report.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to Lorna and George H.P. Smith Park.
Well, didn't get a lot of things done in the park as far as it's concerned, but we have had some successes. I think Bartlett Tree did come out and do some trimming at some of the things that Allison had circled, but there's still some more to do, and there are some downed branches. They seem to constantly happen, so trees and branches. We're working on the meadow garden. We're getting ready to get that started and planted with seeds, and we have to put in some dirt. So that's coming up in the next couple of weeks. In the meantime, some of the volunteers have been out there weeding it so that the wiregrass doesn't eat it up, because it's very vigorous right now. But other than that, the park has been rather quiet. I haven't had much contact with Harry, so I don't know. He's been dealing with the Envirotech spraying, and there is some spraying of poison ivy that makes me happy because I'm very susceptible. But other than that, I'm not sure what else they're doing. I would like to see the contract. I have not yet seen the contract, so maybe we could get a hold of a copy of that. And I'm not sure which days they come out. And that kind of, the park has been kind of quiet, and everybody seems to enjoy it. Awful lot of people like to walk in there with the dogs. So we're happy to have that kind of company. And I don't have anything further to add.
Okay, thank you. Marty, the tree program.
Thanks. Well, I've been doing general inspecting and light pruning and tree tag maintenance and so on. The big thing, I guess, is last week, Allison and Janet and I met with Bartlett to talk about several things. One of the big things was redoing the trees, the small trees on the the residential side of 2nd Street. That's been something that's been in the works for a while. We had approval to do it in this year's budget, and we recently got confirmation that we could actually do it this fall. So basically what we're going to do is remove most of what's left of trees in that section and reinvigorate the planting holes. They're going to dig them up and put in good stuff, good soil, and put in more suitable trees basically, and then water for a year. So hopefully we will be able to get that done sometime in October. and that'll make it look a lot nicer. Right now it looks kind of neglected, but that should work very well. That's the big news.
Okay, thank you, Marty. Lou, Papp for Zwannendale Park.
Yes, these were the following items that were done since our last report. You conducted 2 work parties to weed, prune, and clean up the park from wind damage. We had quite a bit of wind during the last couple of months, so there's always quite a bit of branches and things like that that got to be cleaned up. The large buttonwood tree, I think it was a buttonwood tree that was came over. I mean, was actually blown over, and that sort of surprised me. It was a huge tree, but that has been cleaned up, I think by Bartlett. And I've been refilling the water reserves of the 6 desert planters in the park every 1.5 weeks. So that's working out really well. It isn't causing me a lot of extra work. I could probably even go 2 weeks sometimes, when we get rain in between. I conducted an orientation walk with you through the park. I've researched catalogs and placed an order for some daffodil bulbs that we planted this fall. And I placed that order through Lewes and Bloom. I cleared and refilled the fountain basin like 3 times, and that's always usually quite a chore. It usually takes a couple hours to go through that whole process. I conducted a walkthrough of the park with Warren Goldie to evaluate the success of the various annuals that we had planned this summer. And discussing each one, we then determined what we might have to do to next year to make it more attractive. Actually, it was quite successful. There's probably only one garden that we have to make a change. I developed a planting scheme for the various park beds that were that will be changed over this fall with pansies at the end of September. So I researched all the plant offerings that were being made by our wholesale contractor and placed an order through Lewes and Bloom. So that's probably going to be taking place, I'm guessing probably in the next couple of weeks. And then the tulip planting shortly after that. And that's pretty much it.
Okay, all right, and thank you for the tour. I enjoyed the tour. Warren.
Yeah.
Updates?
Yes. I also enjoyed the tour with you through Mary Vessel's in 1812 Park.
Thank you.
The plants there are doing pretty well. In a couple of weeks, we plan to pull the plants and put in pansies in both Mary Vessel's and 1812 in many areas for the fall and winter and spring. And then we'll be planting tulips. Lewes and Bloom will be planting about 20,000 tulips again this year. We'll be overplanting the tulips that are left in the ground in all the parks, basically with the same varieties. The old tulips will, if they come up, will probably bloom a week earlier than the new ones, even though they're the same kind. So it'll extend the season. Also, the patrons at 1812 Park this past week pruned the great big Nellie Stevens holly tree. They pruned the bottom branches, and now you can see under it and you can see down into the canal. They did a great job with that. And now we'll be able to probably plant some spring bulbs and some caladiums in the summer underneath that tree, which should be very attractive. And that's about it for the parks. I would like to comment also that Lewes and Bloom plans in a couple of weeks to change over the planters on 2nd Street to a fall planting that'll have mums, cabbage, pumpkins,
Oh, wow.
gourds. We have a decorating committee for the first time, and they're going to be doing that work. And they're also going to be putting decorative fall displays in Mary Vessel's 1812 and Citizens Bank.
Hey, Warren, can I ask you a question? Are you going to be also doing the six planters in Zwandale Park?
Yes.
Okay.
So Warren, I have a little story from today. I was out on 2nd Street today with my clipboard and my, making notes about the trees, doing second guessing and second checking on some things. And a lady comes up to me and says, Are you in charge of the flowers? I said, no, I deal with the trees mostly. She points towards Mary Vessels and said, it's so beautiful, just beautiful. I said, yeah, I know who did it. I'll tell them. So I get stories like that all the time when I'm out and about. People are always complimenting the flowers.
That's nice. It's good to
Yeah.
get that feedback, definitely.
I think we've had more than ever this year because of COVID-19. The people just appreciate the flowers so much. It's one of the few bright spots in our existence right now.
Yeah, it's true.
Let's see, we'll get Barry an update from the Public Art Commission.
Okay. Well, many of you know that we originally had proposed a plexiglass water tower for Canalfront Park, and we had done all the planning for that, and then COVID-19 came, and we found out that it was really impossible for the artist to actually come here and erect it because of our quarantining laws and stipulations. So we kind of had to shelf that project, and we may or may not be able to get that project here next year. But in the interim, we decided that we need to do something because we felt like we had some momentum going with public art. People were starting to get interested in it. So we very quickly came up with a mural project, and the Board of Public Works actually provided the canvas for us, which was the back of the old power plant. And what we did is we put together a proposal and the information for a grant, and we presented it, and we ended up getting 8 submissions for the project. What we did is we posted those submissions on the website, and I think maybe a couple of them were in the paper, so that we could get feedback from the community. The commission then made a decision as to our first, second, and third choice. Our first choice, we found that we had a number of problems and issues with the contract, so we had to go to our second choice. The first choice was a lot more colorful and a little bit more vibrant, but actually the one that we have now is black and white, but it's much more, it's designed with all kinds of things that are all about Lewes. So I think it's really a great addition to the community. If you have not seen it, it's behind the power plant. If you want to park on Franklin or the end of Washington and walk towards the power plant, you can see the mural. It's also posted on the website, which is lewispublicarts.org, or you can also access it from the city's website. So if you're interested in seeing what it looks like, I think it's really created a lot of interest. So many people ride by on their bike, and it puts a smile on people's face. So I think it was a great project, and I think our group really put this together really quick. actually put it together in a matter of a couple of weeks, and within about 2 months, we had an artist out there painting. It was completed on September 6th, the Sunday before Labor Day, and it is due to be up there for 18 months. So that's the report on the public art project.
Okay, thank you, Barry. Moving on to the Friends of George Smith Park. Lorna, do you have an update for us?
Not too much to tell you. We sort of have been on hold for the COVID. Nobody wants to get too excited about anything. We did start, I mentioned earlier, being the meadow garden, and that's going to be our project for this year. We haven't really been able to meet in groups, and when we did the weeding, we had to stay at 6 feet apart with masks on. So we tried to do our best to consider that process. We're looking at trying to do a survey of the current native plants and native animals that live in the park, and we'd like to find some options on how to make that survey. So there's some projects that are out there. We're also waiting for word from the Delaware Historical Archives for the sign that we had contacted them. We're not sure, it seemed like it was going to be made quite soon, but maybe their funding is a problem. I don't know. So we're waiting for that as well. And that's probably all I can give you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, Rodney could not be with us tonight, so we do not have an update on the Friends of Canalfront Park.
Can I say something about Canalfront Park? Because I met with Rodney about
Please.
Lewes and Bloom wants to do a couple things in Canalfront Park. I know that Rodney was going to meet, I think, with the Friends actually. Yes. No, I guess he meets on the 5th. He must have met already with them on the 15th. I haven't heard back. But we wanted to do a couple of things. One of them was to expand the existing butterfly garden that's there into the large bed that has all the hibiscus. And on the outside of that bed, there's a lot of grasses, and we want to remove the grasses and put butterfly plants there. There are already late blooming plants there, the Solidago rugosa, the native seashore goldenrod, and some late fall blooming asters. And we would be planting some earlier flowering plants. Also, talk to him about in the front where there's some echinacea, and they're also right in front of the porch, there's some beautiful dwarf crepe myrtles blooming that nobody can see. They're being blocked by some shrubbery, and we would remove the shrubbery, move the echinacea down to the butterfly garden, and plant a seasonal planting and tulips in that area. And he was in favor of that. So he was going to talk to the Friends about it.
Okay. Okay, thank you. And we have an update on the community garden from Lou.
Yes, I just want to let you know that the community gardening has been doing great. A couple of things we've done since our last meeting. We established a regular mowing schedule on our plot, and we hired an outside contractor to do this once a month. And in between, we have volunteers that help with the cutting and trimming. We have small lawn mowers, and we also have some trimmers that we have them use. We conducted a work party to turn the compost in our 4 bins and rejuvenated with fresh plant waste. The 4 progressive bin system was built and has worked out extremely well. And we have a large supply of fresh compost that's getting near to be almost completely aged. So we should have quite a bit to add to our beds next spring. We cleaned a large area of briars and mulched the area with wood chips and planted planted 6 donated native trees. I don't know if any of you had a chance to read the nice article in the September edition of the Delaware Beach Life magazine, which is a local magazine that's very popular. But if you have it, see if you can maybe borrow a copy or something like that. It was a very nice article. We continue to donate fresh organic produce to the local food banks every week. And to date, we have donated over 525 pounds.
Wow.
We continue to publish our bi-weekly or bi-monthly newsletter to keep our members informed on garden, news, and future plans. I, with one of my volunteers, cut and we gathered a large supply of bamboo stakes that we use throughout the garden plots. I researched and contacted new suppliers for our wood chip donations, and through our efforts, we resulted in delivery of 6 large truckloads, actually more than we really needed, that will easily supply our needs for the rest of the year. And the last item is I prepared an updated summary of our funding efforts for 2019 and through early 2020. We really had a great success in our efforts and raised the following amounts. Grants, we raised $13,750. Our fundraising and corporate donations amounted to $9,900 roughly. Our general donations were about $4,700, and our in-kind donations were around $9,700. So we actually, the total of that is like $38,000, which was quite sort of surprised me. We really did well. In addition to we had volunteers that actually did a lot of work on the garden itself. And these amounted to just the starter garden. We put in 578 volunteer hours to build that, which if you actually come up with a cost for that, they estimate that at $20 an hour. So that sort of ended up to be another $11,560. Since we now have a large reserve in excess of $20,000 in our bank with Lewes, the Greater Lewes Foundation, moving forward, we decided to stop doing any more fundraising since March. Basically, there's a lot of nonprofits out there that are hurting, and we felt that since we're in such great shape, that why compete with those that really have a need. So the reserves we have right now, probably sort of guessing, but I'm pretty sure of this. We'll probably good for at least next year with all our capital improvements, and maybe even the following year, without even doing any additional fundraising. And that's pretty much it.
Thank you. So that completes the commissioner's report. If there's nothing else, we can move on to old business. The first item on the agenda is discussing the revision of the Parks and Rec Commission 2021 budget. This is in relation to the COVID pandemic and the impact on city revenue. There was discussion at the July meeting on what revisions could be made to each park budget. We received 3 budget revisions, so there's still some that we need to have submitted, so we can take a look at that.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
I've never seen, Anne Marie sent out the budgets that we submitted in the email when she asked about checking the revisions, but I've never seen what the budget was that the city passed for each of the parks. is there such a document? Did that not happen?
The original budgets were passed, yes.
Just as they were submitted, those budgets were passed?
Yes, as submitted, and that should have gone, everybody should have gotten a copy of that.
Well, we got copies just the other day from Anne Marie of what we submitted, but they didn't produce a document that had each of the budgets in a like an Excel file or something with all the numbers in that.
So we have,
I'm probably asking the wrong person. You weren't here. But I
so
just
we do have the city budget, but it will give just one line for each park. It doesn't
Okay.
go into the detail.
Okay, okay. So that's what I was wondering, because my first year here, that was distributed. And that was what I was wondering, whether that was available. But that's fine.
Okay.
I didn't know you were still here. Anyway, for me, when the COVID started, I didn't understand that we could spend as we needed to. And so I have not spent any money myself, but I would like to buy enough soil to cover the wood chips for the meadow garden, so we can actually plant seeds in there and plant plants. And so it'd be about $300. And that was the primary thing I wanted to do this year. If we have some extra money, I think it would be useful to get rid of the rest of the Bradford pears, but that may cost a couple thousand.
Mhm.
But so however you guys, if you need the money for the city or whatever, we can wait a year or whatever until we get back to normal, or we can do it if we have, the funding. But for me, the big thing is I probably will only be spending $300 to $400 on the soil and the whatever I need to get that garden going. Okay.
So we do have mayor and council has a meeting scheduled for Friday to look at budget revisions. At this point, Ellen, Lorraine, and I met last week, and we worked on the adjustments that we knew based on the revenue declines, and then where we knew we had savings, and she's in the process of working to get that to balance out, which obviously we'll have more information before Friday. So it could be that there's no cuts at all, or it could be that we have to trim a few places.
Okay.
So we'll let you know after the council meets. It certainly, we were able to realize a good bit of savings just on some of the hiring deferrals. So hopefully we don't have much more than that.
Okay, all right, that's great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The second item under old business is discussion and update regarding the pickleball needs in Lewes. And I understand that there was some discussion of developing a committee to look at that need. Rodney's not with us tonight.
I can address that.
Barry, can you give us an update on that?
Yeah, we just, of course, things have sort of been delayed with COVID and such. I think it was our last Zoom meeting, we submitted a proposal, Rodney and myself, to put together a committee to really research the needs for pickleball in the area, and to really identify identify the specifications of what we think we would need, whether it's 2 courts, 3 courts, 4 courts, or whatever, a shelter and or parking or whatever, and then go about identifying places that we might be able to do that. And a part of that group would be myself, Rodney, and then 3 pickleball players, and probably a city planner and the Dunkin Parks administrator would be part of that also. We're in the process of contacting some of the pickleball players, but we don't have confirmation from everybody, so we don't really want to identify who those people are yet, but they will be 3 pickleball players that are city residents. And I would think within the next week or so, we should be able to identify who exactly those people are. And then we'll have probably a Zoom meeting in probably October.
Okay.
Barry, I have a question.
Yes.
There was mention of a pickleball feasibility study that had been done, and to my knowledge, nobody at the city has gotten a copy of it. Have you received, you or Barry, or I'm sorry, you or Rodney received a
No.
copy of that? Okay.
Is that something that was that something that Ted was talking about that was done by Ernie or something like that? Or
It funded with legislator money, but also the First State Pickleball Association was involved.
I only heard about it. I have not
Okay.
seen anything about that. It'd be
Okay.
nice to have that, if you know, to be part of our consideration when we try to come up with specifications as to what we need in terms of a facility.
Okay. Well, we'll see if we can get our hands on it.
Okay, that'd be great.
Okay. Thank you, Barry. Is there any other questions regarding the pickleball needs before we move on to new business? Okay. The first item under new business is discussion for.
Just a second.
Yep.
Can I make a note that we just have a chat from Ann Reed that says Kathy Casey can provide the feasibility study.
Oh,
So that's in the chat.
Okay, thank you, Marty. I have to remember to look down there.
you're on it, Marty.
Okay, thank you, Marty. Okay, moving on to new business. The first item is discussion for planning of fiscal year 2022. The commission budgets and capital projects. We are trying to be more proactive and well-planned, so we get an early jump on the budget process. So I'm asking that each of the commissioners have their budgets to me by October 30th. I will be meeting on November 25th to review the budget, so that will give me time. If I have any questions of any of you, that will certainly give me plenty of time to get back to you and still be on my timeline of November 25th.
This is for 21, 22?
Yes.
Okay.
So hopefully that's manageable and feasible for everyone. And I will reach out to Rodney and let him this week and let him know the timeline as well, so he's informed. And Harry as well. Harry could not be with us this evening, so I will reach out to them and give them that timeline.
A question, beside new budgets, are you also looking for capital improvements?
Yes, we would be looking for capital improvements as well.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? No? Okay. Okay. The second item on the agenda for new business is discussion and possible action moving forward with the reconstruction of the tennis courts and basketball courts at Canalfront Park. There was some resurfacing and repair that needed to take place on those courts. My understanding is that it was going to be a spring project. And if we're still on target for that, we would need to be putting out bids relatively soon. So some discussion on where we think we are with that. Do we want to move forward, or do we want to defer until a later date? So that's for the Canalfront Park tennis courts and basketball court.
Well, I see no reason to defer. I mean, they need to be resurfaced. We have the funding, part of the funding from the state. So I think it's something that needs to be done. Obviously, the courts are used both by tennis players and pickleball players quite a bit throughout the season. So I don't see any need to. I know the city is contributing a certain amount towards that project, but I think it's a really high need, and I would not recommend that we postpone it.
Okay. There's someone in the chats. My glasses aren't working well. It's
The
very
question
small.
is from Sumner Crosby, do tennis and pickleball have different needs for resurfacing?
Okay.
And
Oh,
the
I
answer is yes, for not for resurfacing, but for lining the courts.
For lining.
But we can move forward based on what has been approved previously, and if we need to, you know, if things need to be changed in terms of the striping, I think we could add that to the contract. I just unmuted Charlie to see if he wants to weigh in on that.
Hey everyone, good to see everybody. Where we left it in the spring was that basically if we use the exact same footprint that's there now, 97.5% of the cost estimate would have to be done no matter what the pickleball or tennis striping would end up being. Because we're talking about rebuilding the tennis courts, all new fence, making some repairs to the basketball courts, some wind shields on one side. So there's a lot of things that need to be done no matter what striping arrangement we go with. But at the end of the day, we'd have to put the tennis courts and the pickleball court lines on the court, on the resurfaced area in some form or fashion. So we would have to decide that at some point.
I think that's something that we should look at in more detail with just a few people that know the situation.
Yes, and that's what
there's a little bit of conflict with the two groups, and if we stripe it in the right way, we can more easily accommodate both sports. So that would not be my only comment about that, and I really don't think it's necessary to discuss it at this point, but I think that's comes later.
Harry, you're exactly right. We did leave it that the striping portion of it would be discussed between a couple members of the Parks and Recreation Committee, Anne Marie, myself, and Janet, to work it out.
Yeah, I think we can come up with the best solution. We've gotten a lot of input on that, and I think we can make a decision on that.
Any other comments or discussion before we move on? So the consensus then is that we move forward with that project and we'll get that out to bid.
Yes, I guess.
Yes.
Yes.
So can I add one thing to that? So what we've shown you thus far are conceptual plans. So we would need to just add to them in terms of putting together the technical specifications and some details to show what technical engineering work needs to be done so a contractor can build it.
Okay.
And,
So you
and
need
then-
construction specifications, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
Sorry.
And then, Barry, do you see Dave Beck has a comment in the chat? He said he was one of the people who had volunteered to be part of the subcommittee. Are there
Okay.
plans to hold a meeting? Barry had mentioned earlier that would be in October. Is that correct, Barry?
Yeah. Yes. I don't have a date at this point. I need to check with Rodney on that. And I will note that Dave Beck has volunteered. I'm not sure how many we've gotten commitments from at this point, but we certainly will take that in consideration.
Thank you. Any other comments, discussion? The third item on the agenda for new business is any update on the Great Marsh Park Master Plan. And Barry, I had you and Rodney down for that. And again, Rodney's not available. Do you have any updates?
I do. Actually, I just talked with him about that. We actually just kind of got started on this right before COVID, and that sort of stifled the project. What we decided that we needed initially is a survey and a sort of an analysis of the whole property to figure out what we have there and what we can do with what we have. And Rodney had asked about getting money to do a survey. He contacted a survey company, and they said that it would cost close to $10,000 to do the survey, which sounds like an awful lot of money. So what I said to him, or what we talked about the other day, is that I would think that the state would have some kind of survey information about the property if they're leasing it to us. We need to mark the corners and of the property, and so that we know exactly what we're dealing with, so that we can go and walk the property and find out if there's trees to be removed or invasive species or what have you. So he was going to contact the state to find out if they could provide us any kind of information like that, because I mean, I would think that they would at least know where the property corners are, or at least be able to direct us to how we could get some of that information. So maybe we could cut that fee down a little bit, because $10,000 seems like a lot of money. And then I talked with somebody about doing a drone flyover of the property so that we can evaluate from that, so we can look at least some video footage and at least have a better idea of what we're dealing with. Because I mean, it's a large piece of property, 66 acres, and it's both sides of Park Road. So most people are more familiar with the side of the road that the dog park is on, and that's probably about 2/3 of the property, but there's another third of the property on the other side of the road, which is just, you know, overgrown brush and whatever. So anyway, so that's kind of where we are. It will obviously involve coming up with a mission statement as to what we want to do with this park, whether it's, to provide active or passive recreation, preservation, whatever. And then from there, we would have to hold public meetings and so on, so forth. But the two things that Rodney and I stressed initially was we need a survey or an analysis of what we have, and then we need to figure out how to maintain the property until we do any kind of development of it. And what we shared with the group the last time is we can't just let the property sit as it is, because then it will cost us a lot more to develop it in the future. So that's kind of where we are. So hopefully we'll get a little more information in terms of the survey and the analysis so that we can begin the planning process. Anybody have any questions or?
This is Marty. Are you planning to put in the requested budget for next year an amount for the survey, as well as developing a master plan? I think Rodney at one point thought that he would, in order to fully develop a master plan, he'd need probably contractors and other support, and it would cost, it's $20,000 sticks in my mind. That might be not.
That's correct.
Yeah, was that $20,000? Okay.
Yeah.
So now there was a survey of sorts attached to the lease, of course, from 10 years ago, whenever that was. I don't know if it's enough to help a surveyor really figure things out, but have you showed that to surveyor? And I was wondering about the 10,000 too, but my problem with that survey is it doesn't actually state that there's any like metal markers or anything where the edges are, where the corners are. And otherwise,
I would think that the state would have a little more detailed information. If they own the property, they ought to know. I mean, technically we have a lease, and
right.
So I feel a little bit hesitant to spend close to it was 98 something. I'm hesitant to spend that much money when I would think that the state would at least have have the information that we would need.
Yeah. I really need I think we really need to have the edges marked in some way. And if there's no metal markers there, that may be one of the problems. It's going to be hard to find the edges again. But,
yeah, I would rather spend the money on an arborist or somebody that
right.
comes in and does an analysis of the flora and fauna there and that kind of thing. Of course,
so are you planning to put in a proposed budget for Great Marsh Park for approval for next year? I think somebody should. You and Rodney or somebody.
We certainly can do that. Yes.
Yeah. So the money's identified in one way or another. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, comments on the park? Okay. I just wanted to take a minute. Barry, there was another entry in the chat from Kathy Casey. She had said that there were 3 names submitted to be on the subcommittee, Dave Beck, and additionally Jerry Grohl and Bob White.
Yeah, I've already
okay. I just wanted to make sure
noted them, and I'm not sure which ones Rodney has already contacted, so these people have not been, so I'll make a note of that.
Okay.
They may be already on his list.
Okay. All right. So the final item under new business is discussion and possible action on a new Parks and Recreation Commission chair. I know a few of you have had some questions for me about that. This commission is the only commission, and I'll ask Anne Marie to jump in here if need be, that has a city employee as the chairperson. And we just wanted to take a look at the process and the formation of the commission and the running of the commission, and just have a discussion on your thoughts as to having one of the commissioners be the chair. I would still, of course, be on the commission. So I'm throwing that out there for discussion and thoughts, comments.
Anne Marie, is this unusual to have somebody kind of chair the in government, or is this?
Most citizen committees are chaired by one of the citizen volunteers. Again, if it's working, and if the commission prefers it this way, I don't think there's any reason to change it. I thought that with the transition of Allison exiting and Janet coming in, this would be the opportunity for the commission to make the decision if you want to keep it as it's been. Even as the chair, she doesn't have a vote, so it's not,
Sure.
It's kind of keeping everybody on track and following up. So I don't know that it's not working, but the transition provides the opportunity to make that determination.
Do all of the
In
other
my mind,
groups?
I think it's fine the way it is, but I don't know what others think about it.
From my own perspective, I think it's worked very well. And
I do too.
And I think more than other groups, I think it's also the nature of what we do. It's the parks are all around the whole community, and having a key person at the city that can be contacted on a daily basis and that's available, I think that's really important, because I think there's a lot of issues that come up having so many different parks. So,
Right, and I think you all have your hands full with your individual parks. It's a little different, I think, in that way from the other committees and commissions. Is you're very focused on your parks, and that keeps you busy. So that the chair responsibility is another layer. That if we can manage that through staff and it's working, I'm fine with it.
Anne Marie, is there any need to have a formal vote from the commission or anything like that to keep it, to name a new chairperson? Or
it wouldn't hurt, because again, with Allison having been the chair, usually there's some sort of action. So if you want to take the action, then it makes it clear that Janet's the chair.
You guys have a quorum here.
I make a motion that Janet
There you go.
becomes the chair.
second,
Well, thank you. Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
I think the question is going to be who has the time to take on this responsibility.
Yeah.
I, for one, am involved with like 7 nonprofits, and a chair does 80% of the work. I'm exaggerating there with 80%, but a chair is going to take a lot of time, and to have one of us that are volunteers to do that, I think, unless someone wants to step up to the plate.
and not only that, but because it's city money we're spending, we have to be like this with City Hall anyway. So we'd have the same amount of work with City Hall, I think, just because we're spending City Hall money all the time.
So just for the record, we had a motion and a second. Do you want to actually?
Vote, yes.
Yeah.
Shall we
that
vote?
part.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. That's for the chair to say. We'll help you, Janet. We'll help you.
Thanks, Marty.
Hey, you got to admit,
I'll get
brand
that
new.
down.
Brand new, and she got you guys through the meeting in an hour. So
It's pretty amazing.
Well, hopefully
Paper.
I didn't overlook anything. So,
There's always another meeting.
There was one other comment that came across the chat regarding the sprinkler going on to the court surface. I don't know if, did you
Yeah.
catch that, Anne Marie?
yeah, we can
Okay.
look at that, see if some sort of adjustment needs to be made.
we did recently look into that, because we did have another issue come into the office. So we did look at that, but I'll look at it again. So if there are no other comments or input, I would make a motion to adjourn. It is 7:31 p.m.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
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 How did I do, Marty?
Good job.
Did I do it right that time?
Good job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job.
Welcome, Janet.
All right. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate your patience on this first
Andrew.
run.
Thanks, Janet.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone.
Bye now.
Take care.
Bye-bye.